unmute. Or is that?
So muted.
In that case, I welcome everyone to a meeting of 7th of July. Given that not everyone watching may have the stamina to reach the end of the meeting, where announcements are normally made, I would just like to make a couple now. Firstly, you will know that out of respect for Ian, we did not publish the notice of vacancy for a new parish councillor until after his funeral last Monday. There's a statutory 14 working day period when electors can call for an election, which will expire on the 21st. After that, if 10 residents haven't called for an election, the council will be inviting applications from residents to be co-opted onto the council. I would hope that we could meet with applicants and the new councillor considered our September meeting, as we don't normally meet in August. If anyone is interested, please contact the clerk or any councillor. You will see that there are notices in the village hall, and there will be notices on the notice board, which gives some information on what the parish council does and in what is required of parish councillors, and indeed the qualifications that you have to have, which is fairly straightforward. You just have to live here or work here and not be a criminal. But other than that, you should be okay. That's the first announcement. Secondly, just give a public thank you to Ollie Sawbridge for mounting the Castlefield information board at the North Street entrance to Castlefield. It looks very good. We made up actually more than two of these information boards. One will go on the existing stone plinth, and the other is being mounted at the entrance. I would just point out that it is the fence that is crooked, not Ollie's information board. Anyway. So moving on to tonight's meeting, after the open forum, we've got the usual clerk's report, the ward councillor's report, and a report on some matters of interest that came up at a recent Castlethorpe Parish forum. There are no new planning applications this month, again, which is real daft planning applications, but anyway, that's. And then we have 7 resolutions. One to apply for some grant funding to install solar panels and batteries at the pavilion. To consider 2 options to use some S106 funding for the Castlethorpe and Castlethorpe Sea Scouts. To consider a request for funding for repairs to the Free Library. To consider whether to proceed with marking out further parking bays in South Street. To consider options for village hall hirers who do not have individual music licences. To consider purchasing a fireproof filing cabinet for our parish office. And to consider the West North Lands bus survey and its implications for the 33 bus. There is a part 2 tonight from which the public are excluded, which will consider 5 quotations that we plan for work that needs to be done. And as you may recall, we don't consider those in public, so the results will be published on with the minutes. So that's the introduction. So can I ask if there are anything to raise in the open forum?
I think the dog farm Friday morning, there's a number of black flags up there, about 5 together. And this morning I go to Oxford, there wasn't loose now. 2 black plastic bags full of rubbish before your beach and the family beach. And there's one, how they've done it today, they've dumped that up the traffic lights because they've driven over, isn't it? So I've got that's outside. I've got to clear it up tomorrow, go over the park.
Sometimes reported it, there's been a lot of flights of them this week, almost Havisham.
Yes.
There's some on the way to Hanslope, isn't there?
Yeah. That's a big factor. It has, I know they've been reported.
I see we just got a crime fitness. Is that not recorded? That's
Well, it won't be if it's only in July.
Well, yeah, but I think
Well, it will be.
we expect
Yeah.
to see that.
Yeah.
So two of them laws, and one put traffic lights, I was hours,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to clear up from running apartment. I'll leave the factory with these on the list.
Yeah. Well, it is. It is just awful. I mean, it's just, you know, just it. Anything else? Okay, in that case, we'll move into the meeting. We've got no apologies. I think I'm correct. Any declarations of interest in the in any of the agenda items? I would point out that the item on the pavilion is not to do with the pavilion as a Catholic bar restaurant. That Steve, Russell and I would have to do. This is the purely parish council matter. So no declarations. Right, then moving on to looking at the minutes of the 2nd of June. Are there any matters of fact that are in error or any omissions that we want to raise? No, yes. So Russell proposing and we all in favour of the other. So now moving on to the last report. That wasn't amazing, but
Yeah, last one.
You should go for the record today.
So moving to the clerk report. So, any questions on items 1 to 11? We'll read out what it's about the residents if there are any questions on it. No? No? Okay. Carry forward items 12 to 14. No. And of course, we've got the famous highways list, which in fairness has been significantly reduced. They have done some work which we are appreciative of. So it's good. What we're talking about will be attached to the minutes, so you'll be able to see the touch or if you look at the minutes afterwards. Right, so we now move on. Ward Council's report. Chris, welcome. Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too.
What's been going on at in the Citadel of Milton Keynes?
3 things to report this month. The first thing is a little bit of good news regarding Bullington End Road. It was provided an email last Thursday that said that apparently Bullington End Road has been chosen to be part of the servicing programme with works being undertaken this month.
Sorry, what does that mean? You're going to resurface it?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. The email says, please note that there will be a delay between the surfacing works and the road markings, as we need the road surface to fully set and be swept before starting any painting works. So it sounds like they're going to resurface the road. There might be a few days where there's not going to be any road markings. Then once it's all swept, I'm going to put the road markers on the street.
Do you know the extent of the recovering that they've sort of junction on the street?
I don't know, I'm afraid.
Yeah, because they've actually done some quite extensive works beyond the traffic calming.
Yeah.
For which they actually had to close the road. So it would be odd if they were to do that again, but
Yeah.
Oldham, not surprised. Anyway, that's good because there's a particularly nasty part of the right, very junction, which is almost unavoidable when turning into the road from Hamilton.
Yeah.
So that's okay, good.
So that's the first piece of news. A couple of other bits. Brief one, the forward plan is now showing the new city plan application for proposed subdivision as 2nd of September going to delegated decisions. So I imagine the new city plan will probably be online around that time or soon after.
Okay. And there's no change that you're aware of that would affect us?
I haven't been made aware
No.
of anything whatsoever.
I've got a bit about that. Okay. All right, that's fine.
That said, WPI, as my third point, WPI strategy produced a report in May 2025, which talked about new towns. And it outlines local authority districts with the highest potential for new town development. Guess which place got number one?
Is this not King's North then?
Yeah, that's what I fear at the moment, but we'll have to see. It's all conjecture at the moment. We don't know what the new town report is going to say. However, when a think tank says Milton Keynes is high for new town potential,
Is that Milton Keynes North or Milton Keynes?
it says Milton Keynes in general.
Milton Keynes in general.
It's odd for Milton Keynes in general to be identified, given that we are a new city, but anyway. Okay, well, I mean, that's a governmental decision, isn't it? Not a local decision.
So we're going to have to see what happens. I think we're expecting to see the new town working workforce report to be published at some point this month.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens.
Are they going to have allocated funds when they publish that report, or?
I don't know. We'll have to see what comes out.
Okay.
Well, if you could let us know as soon as you get it,
We will.
you'll probably be notified before we would be, but yeah, that'd be good. Thank you. And
Yeah.
What's the second?
Yeah, and new city plans hit the full plan.
Oh, I see it. Okay. If I could pass on to you, Chris, something that Liam was handling, which the resident associated with it has come back to me again and asked what's happening. Which is the street light in School Lane that is attached to the school building, which has been repaired for the last 40 years by Milton Keynes Highways. And they've suddenly decided it's not there, so they're not going to do it anymore. They did that at the end of the last winter season. And said it must belong to the building. So it's got a building insurance as well, so it's a school. So Liam was then trying to get hold of education to get them to fix the street light, which I have to say I'm really surprised, because I mean it doesn't illuminate anything to do with the school, it's the lane.
Yeah.
But it does need to be fixed. And honestly, if they say we don't like that street light, then they've got to put a new one in or something. I mean, but it's very dark in that little stretch.
Yeah.
And the residents have always had a street light there, and and it's ridiculous for it to be passed between two. If we don't get any joy, then I'll write to Michael Bracing saying, look, two of your departments can't agree with who's meant to be doing it. But I think as Liam had it in hand, I'd rather Liam ran that till he comes to a halt before escalating it. But we do need to get on with it because the nights are getting shorter now, aren't they?
Yeah.
I agree, that's fine. I will message Liam at the first instance to see where it's got to with that.
Can I ask, it's now coming up to the anniversary of our Village Green application, 1 year on. Yep, and I know that the wheels of MKC grind slowly, but I do think a year is slightly taking the mickey.
Yeah.
To put it politely, I have the solicitors chased it up. I've also chased it up with the planning guy, James. And it's, yeah.
Okay, I'll drop an email and see if we can get that sped up at all.
Yeah.
I mean, really, Kay, I mean, as I have looked at on many occasions, you shouldn't start chasing looking until 2 years advance.
I'm just not that sort of person.
Yeah, they never do anything for 40 years, anyway, I know that.
Just seems a very long time
Right.
when it's a fairly
Anything else on
simple thing.
the Chris?
It's not-
Steve, would you like to give us an update then on
Hopefully a quick update, which Chris has actually provided some information, but we went to the parish before, and because we were fearing the worst at the end of the legislation, until they can consider and they produced the draft. But public consultation, including consultation for developers, they had 7,000 comments that they received. But because we were a bit concerned that they might actually introduce something as a result of those comments, Russell, Dave himself went along, but they hadn't. They took into account the 7,000 comments and determined that there was no sites to be allocated in Milton Keynes North Rural. The concern that we have over the Newtown thing is completely independent of the local plan, and it has its own targets. So the numbers that Milton Keynes plan is achieving is irrelevant. The new city or new town's plans will add on to that. So there will be an in-person event in the Chamber at the Civic Offices on 10th of September 2025, ahead of the Regulation 19 consultation. So the next plan that they produce will go to consultation, and then it'll go to inspector. The other thing
Then it will go to,
they're not going to inspector,
oh, I see, okay. Those are fine.
which is final place. There was a session on planning enforcement where they told us what planning enforcement should do, but we've never. I think we all know what they should do, but we've never seen them to do. The Armed Forces Covenant, which we've subscribed, I will say to the public that if they know anything on ex-service people, it is worth actually seeing what it contains for those people, because there are certain services and help that they can actually provide. And you just actually do a search on Armed Forces Covenant guidance and support on Google, but it's the gov.uk site, and it'll go through what former servicemen and women can actually get from it. There's a section on planning obligations. Again, I don't think there's anything new in that. And there's a landfill communication fund available for grants, as long as we're within 2 miles of Old Wolverton, so we would apply for it. So it's just there is criteria that the sort of applications they will take. I don't think we've got anything coming up that would actually meet any of them. Like for example, but we might have. It's worth actually having a look at it. So I've got the contact details. I did write it up. Unfortunately, I only posted it today, so I don't expect any of you to see it.
Yeah.
But just have read through and if there's any questions, then we're all waiting for the rest of it.
On the armed services, just coming back to it, I wonder if it'd be worthwhile just putting a kind of one-liner link on the website, just to say, serving and veteran members in armed forces can benefit from the Milton Keynes Armed Services Covenant here, and then just link it onto the vehicles.
Yeah, it is being run from.
There is a whole section on the website about how you can get help for all sorts of things. Anything.
Just getting there is.
But the website's got help for anybody that needs help, because if they go and look on it.
Yes, it's not just help, it's you get priority, that's right, and things, it's very good. Right, anything else for Steve on that? Thank you very much then. There are no planning applications.
There was a variation to the gender, so I think I have certain.
Yeah. Can we agree that any comments on 29, I think it's just variations to the area extension, isn't it? Yeah. If anyone does want an extraordinary meeting called to discuss it, perhaps you will let me know. Okay. Actually, we can, Jackie is empowered to submit these things on our behalf, so we don't necessarily need to have a meeting. Right, moving back, previous planning applications. 6.1, which is further fixed objection submitted. 57 truck approved upon us. And 4 South Street, wow, the very dubious character is there. Is expecting a decision shortly, and we are. Right, resolutions, I need to propose that part 2 be excluded public. Right, so moving on then to agenda item 7.2. Basically, we've got this huge roof up at the pavilion clubhouse that's south facing, and which should be an ideal site for solar panels. As I said last month when we said we look at it, or asked if we would look at it, this would be the parish council. It's not to do with CCS or the tenancy or whatever, except in one respect I'll come back to. Jackie and I wrote to have done quite a lot of work, but to be honest, they just subcontracted everything to MEARS, including the S106, so it wasn't very helpful. Jackie contacted Hansley, and she and I went up there and had a look at their installations. We actually got 2, because they're buildings that were short span well, they're 2 separate buildings. It's very interesting. They've got a big solar panel arrays and 2 battery systems, and they are definitely saving money. Jackie also contacted their successful contract supplier, the person who did this, and he has given us an indicative quote of £20,000, which was in your packs. Which installed solar panels and batteries up at the pavilion. Now, what I'd like is for us just to agree that we, which would certainly be Jackie and me and anyone else who's gone to this, as Steve has found this landfill fund, we might not get involved, but we might even resurrect our mate from the National Lottery, Martin, whatever, to help us with an application there, just to get that money so that we could do that and install it. And at the end of this, I'll ask for your support to basically pursue this in one way or another. Now, just to explain the way it would work, if we put the solar panels on there, question is what we're going to do with the electricity. One thing that came out from Hounslow was that as a business installation, you get a very poor payment from the grid, from National Grid, for electricity. It's I think 4p, as opposed to 14 or something. Very the fraction of what you get as a household with doing it. So it's not. I mean, it sort of still is worth it, and indeed he's shown a 13-year payback in doing that, which I personally wouldn't spend my own money on a 13-year payback, but there we go. However, we do have a tied user there, the tenant, who is using vast quantities of electricity, and the electricity bill up there is quite substantial. And you've got cooking equipment, which I have to say I have no idea the amount of electricity or capacity that commercial kitchen equipment uses on the saws. It's just unbelievable. And they've got an air conditioning and heating system in that. So I think the way it would work is that we put the solar in, and we're just finalising the draft of the tenancy agreement that Lucan and Lane will sign there. And we put a clause in there which basically says that the parish council may install solar panels. If it does, then it will tenant will be obliged to take the supply effectively from the parish council, who would charge it. Would give it a discount, which is specified by this time, and to agree that at a later date. On the electricity generated by the solar panels. Yeah. So if he uses say 100 kilowatt hours in a month, yeah. And 40 of those are generated from our own solar panels, which are effectively free to us. Yeah. Then we would give him a discount on the commercial rate. Say he's paying 30p per kilowatt hour at the commercial rate. So I think roughly what we do pay. So he would then pay 30p on the bottom generated from the solar panels, and 30p minus a discount. Yeah, on the balance. And that would give the parish council an income stream from or a substantial part of the electricity usage that's generated from solar panels into the future. And then when they go, they pay back. We have to work the numbers up, but that's the principle on the way we're going forward.
Could I just say, Phil, the same 13 year pay back, if we got a grant paid for the zero.
Yeah, so it's constant. Yeah, he's saying pay 2025. But
if we
So it's just a way of generating another income stream for a parish council, which could be quite significant. I mean, I think it will be £700 a month.
Okay. Sorry. I think in principle it's a good idea. My concern I would have is that that's based on the fact that the pavilion is going to be a success and we'll still be running in 16 years' time. What happens if the pavilion doesn't work and becomes a vacant property?
Yeah, that's very sensitive.
Well, it is, but it's also be realistic.
Well, it's pessimistic, not realistic. I think. But having said that, the worst that can happen is that they then sell it back to
the grid.
Well, sure. I'm the engineers dealing for every other level. To have that there as a facility to offer out.
Yeah.
Would be.
I totally agree.
If we can get a grant to pay for it.
Well, plus that is a bit of a villa effect, and then we put the grid at a higher rate, wouldn't we? Because it wouldn't be a business.
No, it's a profit business.
Yeah.
But we still don't.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would. Well, you're quite right. I mean, two things about the village. First of all, you've got to be because it's within the conservation, and you could probably do something towards the back. I'm not quite sure the roof face is quite the right way, but there's that bit as well. But the other thing is the usage here is a lot lighter.
Of course.
Very light.
Well, it always will be, because you're talking about an industrial kitchen.
Yeah, exactly so. So, I mean, broadly, that's the way it would work. I mean, this isn't asking really for any commitment at this stage, except to let you know that if you're then Jackie and some of the rest of us would will explore grants, but there are meant to be some. Milton Keynes used to offer some. The carbon offset fund was one which.
Well, I was going to say you would support it just purely, simply on the green credentials as well, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I think most councils have withdrawn a lot of their green funding now, to be honest.
Yeah. But anyway, so if there are no more questions, can I just, it's my proposal, are we all supportive of it? Yeah. Okay. Right, the next one is Castlethorpe and Hounslow Sea Scouts, with that way around. Now, I had a phone call from James Higgs, who and sent to us a little while ago when he was about, but actually when he announced the formation of Sea Scouts. And they're now underway, doing, they're not on the water, they're doing the alcohol transfer, down now. I don't understand.
It's full season.
But they don't have anywhere for the it's change or life jackets and things. Something about James past. So he's looking for some kind of storage facility. Ideally, what he calls a welfare, which would be on wheels, because they're actually only using the hospital. On a gentleman's agreement, they actually form of written agreement. And obviously could get drawn, they want to be able to move that. So it all sounds very good. You will have seen the various three documents sat there and waded through them. But there is a request. I then wrote to James Williamson and I tried to see if I could get hold of the early years funding, which can't be used because we don't have preschool anymore, and get that redone as youth development. But he said that might be a bit of an ask. But there is 7,200 for voluntary sector support. And James said that the case that James Higgs made met the criteria for it. And after a little bit of toing and froing, which again you can see in this, there really seem to be two options. One is that James could apply for that S106 himself, and we need to help him, I think, because going for S106 is not for the faint-hearted. It's not that complicated, but we've obviously done it a few times ourselves. But the other, which James Williamson suggested, is that the parish council just applies to take the whole of that voluntary sector funding, all 7,200, and then administer it ourselves. And that would allow, for example, if say Youth Club wanted something, or one of the other, or one of the other voluntary sector groups wanted something, we'd be able to administer it ourselves rather than having to make a jump through the 6 application. And given there was actually James Williamson came forward with this idea, I think it does bear
Makes sense.
Worth going after. And particularly as James Higgins doesn't actually know how much he wants. He wrote 1,900 to 2,000 as a guesstimate, and he lowballed it because he was worried about how much money he might be able to get. But I said it's a welfare thing, and you need to get the welfare thing. So yeah.
Would 7.4 rather, be covered by that as well? Because the little library, we have a wonderful woman who fills it up for us and volunteers. So could we not?
Well, could do it. I mean, to be honest,
No, I was just wondering if for future, not for this time, but for future, would that cover things like that as well?
Sort of thing might well come in. We'd have to look at the definition that the S1 S6 is for, have to be compliant with the planning policy.
Makes perfect sense what you said, yes.
But yes, it will sort of go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Forward.
But I'd like to make it's management and so absolutely what says it would make sense to me first. But I think Hanslope would probably have more.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean,
The building has been there.
I mean, he came to me, and I went out and I found some money. I haven't thought of that. I mean, yes, we can go. And that would be a possibility. I think it would be nice, with excuse
Yeah.
the passport to provide some support
Yeah, I
to
agree.
the scouts.
But if it's like the expense of the little library or something like that.
Oh, no, please don't. I mean, I'll come on to the library in a minute. It's, we're
But-
talking about £100, you know.
But things like that.
Yeah.
But then I do think they are quite cash heavy.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they are. And there may be other things that.
Because then maybe it could help with other things, because, yeah.
But, well,
yeah.
Shall we go for the substantive item? Are we supportive of taking over the asking the King's Council to let us manage and administer?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Right,
Yeah.
that's.
Yeah.
I don't. Do we have a seconder as well? That's Danny. We're out, yeah. And then we can talk about, so we'll tell James that we're going to apply for that. And I think James Williamson will be supportive. We can then see where he gets to in terms of what is our final answers.
Yeah.
He may want to split it between Hanslope and ourselves.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I personally would like to support the Scouts.
Yeah.
I'm really pleased to know the way they supported us at the Remembrance Day, for example. I thought that was excellent.
They've done some good work down painting.
I'm sorry.
They've done some good painting and things as well down the canals and stuff, haven't they? The railing and things, wasn't that there?
Still can't quite do actually.
Okay, so then they go down to the canal and paint like fences and railings and stuff like that as well.
Do they?
Wasn't that was one of their Facebook posts that they've been doing good work basically, and yeah, absolutely. So I think we should definitely support anything that keeps and occupies young people and gives them an interest and a purpose. I think is really important.
I think it is, yeah. Chris, and actually you remind me, and let me say this before I forget. S106 applications require ward council support, so.
About to say. About to say you're happy to get Martin.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
My desk.
Well, and if you pass it on to Leo and Alison, because I think they are still with you. Right. That's fine, and then. Yeah, I think that's good. So we can say to James, you're happy for me to say to James Higgins that we're nice to take on and you know, depending on how he gets on and so we'll either and how much it is we can actually get this the quote for him. We'll find out that he's got structured on original words because there's something another words he may some change through the words. Yeah, that's probably. I mean, I had warned the big backwards. It's good that done this meeting okay, well, thank you for that. 7.4 the free library. Really, this is it's almost on here as for information. Holly McGee wrote me, saying that has gone down and was going to do some repairs to the free library, spent about a bit on wood. There might be some items would be there to fund. Previously said, sure that that's actually Jackie's discretion on them anyway. I did suggest you might want to go to Owen Gardens, which I think would be a very good use of their money for community projects. I think
I think the little library is a wonderful facility.
yeah.
Young and old, I see them going there. When my grandkids come, they're like,
There is a
Still
problem
can't
with it. It was built using softwood, so it hasn't lasted very well.
yeah.
So I think if they spent a bit more money on better wood, it would be beneficial.
This is, I think Dan is, I think he's a professional.
Yeah.
So, I hope we will do it. I mean, there may be silk purses out of, and whatever the phrase is, his ears of them. You'll do what you can, I'm sure.
I think we should thank Polly and Dan for doing, because the little library, it's work. I mean, it's not, lugging books up and down and storing books and so thank you to Polly and particularly Polly, but Dan as well. So
It's probably going to speak with Open Gardens and come back to us.
Yeah, I will write back to him today for you to will find it. So,
I couldn't do it. Really?
Yeah, I'll just check that.
Good to know.
Okay, moving on then. Kay, it's this marking out of parking bays in South Street.
Yeah, so the first lot has been, I think, a real good success and has really helped parking. So they were looking at the section from Maltings to New Road. And at the moment, people do park fairly haphazardly, I have to say. But when they measured it out, you could only get the one at the end of New Road and then another 4 after that. So only 5 spaces. And there were, I think, 6 cars parked there at the time. And it's because of the curb in the road and the proximity to Malting. So it's just not feasible, really. I think it'd make it worse. And I think people just ignore it anyway because they park where the white lines, where the spaces weren't. So it's not the same situation as getting. I mean, the other one was just trying to get people to park sensibly, to be honest. But I don't think it's feasible. And I have actually messaged the person who asked me about it, and they understand. So that's fine.
Okay, so you're basically dropping.
Yeah, unless they actually drop the size of the parking spaces, which people struggle to get into already for the good side of them.
Yeah, unless they actually drop the size of
there are very small
but there are very small cars that park in the middle of the road and things like that, in the middle of 2 parking spaces still. But no, it's not worth it. So.
Thank you very much. Right, Russell.
Yeah, the PRS and the PPL falling rights licenses have just been renewed, and Jackie and I had a shock when we found out how much they were, which is due to the Zumba and dance classes and yoga, basically. 2 of them have their own personal licenses, but 2 of them don't. The one is the lady that does the other on Saturdays, and I think Daisy hasn't. I don't know.
They used to.
We just
Yeah, so there's PPL. It's PPL. Yeah, anyway, it's over £1,000 anyway we're paying now.
Wow. Well, I mean, and what are you proposing? Basically, you tell them they've got to pay this £1,000 before they get their own license.
Well, no, they're not. They wouldn't have to pay that, but they would have to pay the amount that we have to pay extra, which I'm not sure of. It's something.
So the town council are responsible for the set fees that
Yeah.
And then there's an additional PRS charge that the board of owners is responsible for per class, the classes are playing music.
Right.
And then there's an additional PPL for the two of merged together now. Between so that part of it, that's.
Okay.
Yes.
And if you multiply those up, that comes to £10,000.
Oh, no, the £1,000 is the whole lot.
Yeah, that,
Yeah, all of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, so the census are, but.
So you're proposing that passes 2014
Onto the, yeah,
onto the charge.
That would be sort of put onto the booking fee.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be for individual hires. That would be the same.
If they have live music, yes.
But
Is that
I
per
think that's
booking?
live music.
Yes.
Okay, so each session, so it doesn't matter how, sorry, Stephen, it doesn't matter how long the booking's for.
No.
So it could be 20 minutes or 3 hours,
Yeah.
it's still the same charge, yeah.
But the classes don't have live music.
They do, no, they have recorded music.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be live.
Recorded music.
Yes,
But
that's not covered, that's not covered.
individual hires have that.
That would be, I think that's covered, isn't it?
You have to be licensed to play
Yes.
any music.
Yeah, but it's, we take it on the basis that it's background music.
So I think this annual fee that we pay includes the background music for the.
So it's just that.
Is that why we haven't got background music on now?
We could have background music on, but there's a specific for dance classes that do actually dance to music and or relax to music in the case of yoga.
Yeah, but they probably are something like that.
Right. So Steve, I mean, the proposal is that individual bookers who don't have their music license will have their session charge increased by £2.27 plus that's 2.14. Wasn't it both of these? Well, whatever. It will be increased by that much. Are you happy with that? Okay, basis what?
Yeah, but does there's a fair individual working on the I suppose that's.
I think that might come under the per annum. I'll need to check again.
It hasn't in the past. They haven't charged anything for individual bookings in the past.
Yeah, but we just haven't paid it.
I think we're supposed to declare rather than.
Yeah.
We haven't declared that.
We have to
Yeah,
declare.
but I mean, base charge, this 310
Yeah.
that must cover something, and then presumably it's individual events, ad hoc events.
These are commercial. Yeah, private hire for parties is not commercial. Do have to pay this extra.
Okay.
So it's when you want to charge £2.40, which is the responsibility of the hirer, or £4, which covers both.
I think it would be both.
Yeah, I don't. Otherwise, the rates that are charged for hire individual are pretty low.
Yeah, they're the lowest in the area.
I'm talking about people who are effectively running
Business,
commercial
small businesses.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what their numbers are like, so it's, if they don't get many people coming and they're only charging £5, the rate of 3 people, that's £15, and we're going to charge them £20 for the thing, so they're not going to, I don't know what their numbers are like.
They're not going to be charged £20. They're only going to be charged £6 maximum, aren't they?
£15 a session.
Yeah, but then plus,
So that's it now, so
Yeah.
£5, £4.50, so we're going to be charging £19.50.
Yeah.
And they've only got, I think the yoga lady from the chair in yoga, she's saying she has 2 people.
Well, she's got to make a decision on that.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think that's
And
right.
then the other thing is when you start, the Daisy and the yoga lady, they're new, we've sort of given them their prices, so you get.
Well, when is this license?
Well, it's.
it's just been really new.
Well, I mean, shall we,
start.
Is September or something like that a reasonable start point?
And give them notice.
Yeah.
That's something.
I think also we're going to have to look at the groups rates as well.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, we just have to tell them we've only just been notified of this, and you know we
haven't got any
can't
money.
really absorb that in the higher thing.
Yeah, the village hall has no money.
Yeah. So now, unfortunately, first of September is a long agreement. Back to reasonable.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I don't think we've got any choice. Don't think so.
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, 7.7, fireproof filing cabinet. The background to this, if you you may have seen some emails going around. The parish records, the historical records, currently are sitting in Steve's garage. Previously were in Karen Hill's garage. Previously were in, you know, et cetera, et cetera. They do need sorting through. There, and one of the things we did say when we built the parish office is that, you know, we ought to put a cabinet in there and store our records, because, you know, it is, is it 1894 that parish council started? I think there's a plaque down the end there, isn't there? Anyway, the other thing is that we do have some important documents that are currently in a safekeeping envelope at Lloyd's Bank. But Lloyd's Bank has discontinued that service some time ago. I mean, in my time, I've only actually looked at the documents twice, and I made a kind of inventory list of the headings, but I didn't photocopy every page. Because in those days, I don't think phones did that sort of thing. But anyway, so we don't have ready access to those documents. And because Lloyd's have discontinued the service, if we now take the envelope held out again, we won't be able to put it back. So we need to be able to secure it. We would need to be able to store it securely ourselves, which really means supply the cabinet in the parish office. Now, I looked up the price for new one, and Jackie fell off the chair when I told her. I think Jackie found some, as she called them, pre-loved ones, which we find, we don't need, brand spanking new, which I think you said would be about 750, 800 or something like that.
Well, I only have
But-
yes, 5 copies.
Yeah.
Always that's in.
How much will the new one cost?
1,500. 1,500 for a 60-minute fire resistant one. And I was trying to work out how long it would take the fire engine to get here, and whether they would actually worry about the parish office first, or whether they go for the bar.
There's one here for 1,100 plus VAT, 4-drawer.
But for how many minutes resistance?
Don't know about that.
You know, it needs to be, you know, at least anyway.
Yeah,
Let's not go into it too much.
90 minutes.
Sorry,
90 minutes.
90 minutes is good.
That's the one time.
Yeah. So Steve and Jackie have very kindly volunteered to go through the documents in his garage to try and sort them out. I did say just to have some little bit of guidance here, because I do know from the previous attempt that Steve had with some Duke of Edinburgh students, because, for example, a lot of planning applications in there. And my view is we don't need to keep planning applications, either not the King's Council or, funnily enough, Buckinghamshire Council, will have those in their archives. If we ever needed to go back to it, I just don't think it's worth keeping. Minutes of the meetings, I think I would actually quite like to. A lot of the councils do actually, you know, digitise them, and you can go back to 1894 or whatever. And there may be some other materials, but I don't know what they are. And Stephen have to make a judgment, or maybe we'll bring that back to. But once we know how much we really want to store, then we can decide on the cabinet. But in principle, you know, we're talking about what was it, £750 or something for 19 minutes. People broadly,
Yeah.
councillors are broadly happy with that.
Well, I think we're legally obliged to do that, aren't we?
Well, I think it would be very, there are one or two things in there. For example, it's going to come up in the correspondence. The lease for Castlethorpe is in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, and if we needed to look at that,
It's better.
yeah, we had to keep that safe.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about in bulk-ish?
Sorry.
What are we talking about in bulk-ish?
Well, we don't know that.
So they've gone through it, we don't
We
know.
don't until we go through it.
That's, yeah,
Is it
What's there now?
worth or?
Oh, it's about 4, that by that by that.
Oh.
so at least,
4
so,
to 6.
so you want to
But
put forward
until,
for,
until we go.
Yeah,
through
yeah.
it, we don't
some
know.
of it won't be,
It-
yeah.
It's just the principle we're approving tonight, and then we'll send little money as we can and do what we have to do.
Okay, you're all okay with that? That's fine, we don't even make the final
Yeah.
decision, but actually, well, actually, can I just put, if Steve and Jackie, because a long hot summer and there's nothing else to do. If they get to a point where they've sorted it all out, because once you've sorted it, you do actually want to put it in the filing cabinet. Could we delegate Jackie, Steve, and one other councillor to make a decision on acquiring a filing cabinet? If they get to the point where they feel they now need to store it somewhere.
I think they deserve that.
Yes.
I thought for one horrible minute you were going to delegate one other councillor to do the filing. I was going to nominate Dave.
Yes, I knew you were.
so just to make the decision on whether to get the cabinet or to find it. Is that what you're saying?
Jackie would find the
And then,
key one.
and you want two councillors to say, yeah, that's fine.
Two councillors and Jackie would then say, yes, let's go ahead and get
I'll
that.
do that.
I'll just send it down.
Yeah, but formally,
That's the easy part of it.
Yes.
To say.
we'll make that decision, Steve, don't worry about it. We'll make that decision.
Can we test the cabinet in
I'm
the
not a
meeting?
hoarder, Steve. I'd just throw everything. I'm terrible.
Set it on fire.
We'll just put the cabinet in the beacon to test it.
Literally, I'd just be like,
Right,
no, don't
okay.
need that, don't need that.
Fine. Thank you very much. Right, and coming on now to probably one of the most important things on this, is the bus survey. Can you tell us about?
Yeah, the notice is actually on the bus stop bus stops by the village hall, and the notice boards by the village hall, and then tomorrow on the other bus stop. West Northants councillor having a consultation by consultants on the bus services between Northampton and Milton Keynes, which are basically the Stagecoach X6 express route, which is not subsidised, and the 33, which comes through Castlethorpe, which is heavily subsidised by both Milton Keynes Council and West Northampton Council. And the survey is to gauge the opinions and what people in the areas that the two bus routes run through, what the people want of the bus service, basically. And the survey started today and it ends on the 24th of July. Basically, it takes about 2 minutes to do it. There's just 4 or 5 questions, and there's the link is on the website, village website, on the notice boards in the centre of the village and in the bus stops. There's also a QR code. So if everybody has ever been on the 33 bus, if they would very kindly fill in this survey and answer the questions, it would be a great help.
Has been posted on Facebook as well by
It's on
a
Facebook
lady
too.
who's put it on Cosgrove, Hanslope and Castlethorpe. So
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, basically fill this in, or I suspect the subtext is lose the service, and so.
Yeah, the one service that would be lost would be the 33, not the X6.
Yeah. So please fill that in. Thank you very
And I
much.
also got you paper copies of the survey, and then there's other access online. I want to copy that in. get that to them with a prepaid envelope.
Right. Very good. Thank you very much for that, Dan. Right, moving on then to this month's payment schedule. Looking at it, it's fairly straightforward. Well, I need to declare an interest, do I? Did I pay that? I paid that, I won't vote on this one. The only two, well, the two specials are there's the music licenses, which we've discussed, which is really quite a big blow, isn't it? We're going to have to do that and then try and recover it. I don't know quite what happens if the people turn around and say, well, we can't make it go out, and we're not going to run the sentence.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah,
No, well,
it's predicted.
Okay, all right, well, that is good. We've been to the sports ground, which was part of the community infrastructure grants, and get 50% of that back. The Silver course, installations. Right, and I think those are the main
What was the total landscape? Oh, that's the
landscape.
the glass crossing. Yeah.
Okay, are we, any questions on this? In that case, well, I better not propose it because I'm being reimbursed. Russell's doing now. Dave was seconding, and the others are approving, and I'm abstaining or recusing on that one. Right, we're moving on then to correspondence received. No, I think yours. So moving on then, 9.1, that was news feed, wasn't it?
No, well, I mean, case by.
Okay,
What's a resident that wrote in?
Oh, no, you saw playing off on the sports ground, didn't you? Kate?
Yes, and I told them
So.
that it wasn't allowed.
But it's the sports ground, we're going to face it.
No, it's a sports ground. So there was a lad playing golf with his mate, and very polite young man. And I just said that they weren't allowed to play golf here. And he said, "Is it all right if I use a driver? Because that doesn't damage." And I looked at the big clod of turf that was sitting there by his feet, and I said, "No, unfortunately not." I don't know if there's any other open spaces where you could use, but you cannot use the sports field. And he was very polite and agreed that he wouldn't play there anymore.
That was field, that's a village green.
Yeah, maybe one day I could send a photo of him playing golf in there.
Yeah.
To Milton Keynes Council.
Do we know whether there's getting any?
I don't know. I haven't been across there. So.
I was doing something at the time, otherwise I should know.
But no, it was fine.
I mean,
but if they were happy.
Very polite young man.
This has been dealt with, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And
he's not come back.
It looks like it's just like so.
All right, well, that's good. I mean, I think Tim actually is in a position where he would see it, so he or Richard would raise it for this.
Yeah, if it persists.
Yeah.
Say something, aren't
I? There are windows on three sides.
I was very polite. I just don't know why though.
All right, okay,
Yeah.
that's.
But it is actually against the law without the owner's permission.
Yeah. 9.2, let's been written asking whether we've got any plans for a memorial to Ian, such as a tree in the sports ground. I would just say I'm very sympathetic to this, but you know, there is a little bit of a precedent here. We didn't do one but when he passed away. We haven't done it to take two others who passed away recently. Mary Stacey was chair of the parish council. Peter Hayman was a long-standing and parish councillor. And I just think, you know, it's you know, if we do that, then we have relatives to the others saying, why do we do it for us, sort of thing. So I'm rather, but anyway, what are other people's views?
I think you're right.
Yeah. And we would have trees everywhere.
We end up with a forest, yeah. Okay, all right, so we'll just say, you know, we can't.
Yeah, well, I think they should tell them what they were,
Yes. 9.3 is a letter from a resident about the use of Castle Field. Now, I did make the point, I can't remember whether I copied it, but Castle Field is not a common land. I mean, the thrust of the letter for residents watching this is Castle Field common land? If it is, you know, it has been overgrazed and to the point where damage has been done to the grass there, and there's so much sheep mess that it's unpleasant. And could we actually manage it as in a similar way to the water meadows in Toaster? The premise that this common land is just not correct. It belongs to the parish council. It was gifted to the parish council. It's Dave, I think, will remember, probably only one of us that was a serving councillor at that time, when the Stacys got planning permission for Lodge Farm Court. And in exchange, they gave the right to graze for the peppercorn on demand. I'm not sure for how long that lease lasts. It will be the 999 lease, it probably is. The only way to find out would be to take it out to safeguarding on the local Lloyd's. But I'm pretty certain it's 99 is a long way to use. Jack was quoted with Stacey, says that actually the use of dual field was well below DEFRA guidelines.
I think it's about 8 weeks this year that's been sheep in it overall, which is not a lot. It's only about 8 weeks. Because
I mean, the point is, anyway, look,
horse's mouth.
the point
weeks.
is, that Luke is saying, unless anyone can, you know, disprove that he's well within DEFRA guidelines and the use of that, both in the amount of time that he's using the field and in the number of sheep that he's got in there.
Yeah.
It probably may well have increased. I mean, he's no longer grazing gobbies, so that may be a factor, but I've no idea. But whatever, he says that he's well within DEFRA guidelines, and I don't think that we can you know, really dispute that unless we have knowledge.
I think the Castle Field is full of weeds anyway, which is like, it would just literally be a load of thistles and things that you would scratch your legs on if there weren't sheep in there. And the sheep do keep the grass at a level, and they're farm animals, so they are going to leave a mess, which has always been the truth. And I think that we're very lucky that Luke maintains the fences and the gates when we ask him to in payment for that. And he's a very responsible farmer, so
he is actually obliged to maintain these stock.
yeah, I realise that, but he does it well.
That's sensitive, hasn't it? He's not overgrazing.
No,
And what you said is absolutely right. We live in the countryside.
absolutely.
You know, part of the joy of the countryside is stepping on the cow paths, isn't it? Now, sheep mob is not really a problem, is it?
I think
It's vegetable eating, so it's not like dogs.
I think it's far more irresponsible for the people who just let their dogs off in Castle Field, let them run round while they're having a nice chat with their mates, and don't watch where they're defecating, personally.
Coming back to this, I think we just ought to politely contact all our Jack, but it's not on there. We have spoken to the farmer. He says it's well within that guidelines, and then, you know, unless if he wants to pick it up again, I guess we could, but he's saying he is well within guidelines and actually which you do manage the grass, which otherwise could potentially be a cost to us if we try to actually maintain that without the ambition.
I think that's everything blank.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anyone to ask on that.
I think so. Okay. Everyone's happy with that?
Yeah.
A resident has written asking if the overgrown footpath from Castlethorpe and Sandstone.
That's the information.
That's only starts that, I'm sure. Okay, in that case, any other business noting on the building, all right, Kay, got that up first.
You said bring it up. Okay, so there is quite a bad crack appearing in Castlefield from where the broken pipe is to where the new signpost is, that gateway. And Ollie doesn't think that it's a heat thing, it just needs keeping an eye on. So it might be an idea if somebody who knows what they're talking about goes and has a look, that's all.
Well, could Ollie possibly just tell us it's getting worse? Who did you have in mind? That's what they're talking about.
I have no idea. I don't, but I'm just passing on.
Be careful how you look at crack experts.
In that crack house round the corner.
That's right, yeah. No, definitely not.
I have to say, this is actually where we do miss something really interesting.
Yeah, my thoughts exactly. Yeah.
No. Well, if Ollie can keep an eye on it, and then if it gets in work, someone like you will have a look at it and just give us an opinion.
It just could become dangerous when people walk, that's all, because they could twist their ankle.
Russell.
The crime figures have just been published and there's been a crime wave going on in Castlethorpe.
That is for 3 months.
3 for 3 months.
Yes, 3 months, whereas normally Tilly used to give us.
Yeah. There's 1 assault without injury, 1 criminal damage, an attempt to remove a ring doorbell from property, 4 drug offences, 1 public order offence, a group of individuals fighting in the street, and 1 robbery, the theft of a mobile phone, headphones and rucksack.
Yes, that was on Facebook.
Yeah. And also there's a non-related crime incident, which is a suspicious person in MK council clothing taking photos.
You didn't work
Very suspicious anymore.
Sure.
I think it's the same person.
Yeah.
It's the same person. Yeah.
And also, it was almost certainly the same person whose household who rolled on as one or 2 weeks.
It was, yeah.
I think the police have. I'm not sure that the individuals are still there actually.
I would have thought they would have got moved on because they don't have as many people in their house as they used to, if that makes sense, without giving, not saying anything, but as a single person, I'm not sure they would be allowed to live where they are, or they were. So I don't know.
Anyway, in other crime news, in other villages, there have been 2 trailers stolen from Gayhurst. A vehicle was stolen from Lathbury and another one from Stoke Goldington. Attempted burglary of a trailer in Lathbury and a burglary in a house in Stoke Goldington.
I do think if you are going to read the news like that, Russell, I think you should do it in the tone of the 2 Ronnies.
Can we publish it?
Yeah, some on the website. And it's on the notice board.
Any other business?
System being for since 2027. So I'll send them around.
Yeah. Well, the only thing about cities, they take so long. No, 20 years ago. Yeah.
There was another one you asked to bring up as well, which was the Google subscription. You said
Oh, the Google.
you did ask about that. Just as a reminder.
Like all these people, we all have a Google account, and probably using now. That is £6 a month per user. It's going up to £7 a month. But there is an option to, I'm not going to figure it out, but it's £7
£70 compared to 84.
which is given that we've got 7 councillors, plus the contact account. It does seem to me that, it's not going to change a lot. It's not like most workplaces.
But if somebody did leave, are you stuck with that subscription, that for a year?
Well,
That's the only thing,
yeah,
whereas
that's the only
a
thing.
monthly one is much more flexible.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would hope that you could amend the email address.
Doesn't say you can though, does it?
It doesn't.
And they are
You wouldn't
Google.
know this until you actually started to see.
Yeah.
But
I think you'd need to investigate that more to see whether there is any flexibility on who can own the account. In my humble opinion,
If we went for a year.
yes.
is that something that you could look at or not?
Not at this very moment because I'm absolutely snowed under with work.
Well,
But in the future, yes.
yeah.
But
all of that happened is that we just roll over to the £7, and then one point we're ready to
Yeah.
not an announcement commitment.
okay.
When that'd be great. Thank you. Right. In that case, we could postpone one of the meetings. That would be very good.
Yeah.
So next, next meeting is first of September.